Hello, everybody. Welcome. You look fantastic in your headphones. You primo. Nice to meet you all. My name's Tom. I work for Naked Wines, and I'm here to talk about the cheery subject for a Thursday lunch of growing your customer base in a challenging economic climate, which is what we're in now, I think. Probably most of you think. Very nice to meet you all. So, I'll do a quick intro. Like I say, my name's Tom. I'm head of customer acquisition at Naked. Some of you might know Naked is the world's biggest D2C wine retailer. So we represent hundreds and hundreds of winemakers in about 50 countries, and we retail their wine directly to consumers in the UK, US, and Australia. And the reason I'm here today is because we spend £25 million a year acquiring new customers. And it's my job to make sure that we spend that money wisely and we get the best possible ROI, we get the most possible high quality customers who are going to spend money with us and buy our wine. So that's why I'm here. Before I did that, I always worked in small, fast growth food and beverage startups. So I was the 5th UK employee at Vita Coco, which went on to IPO for 850 million. And then I was the first employee at Pip & Nut, which went on to be the UK's 3rd biggest peanut butter brand. And I never thought I'd work for a big public company like Naked, but it's a very special big public company. It's only 15 years old for one, so it's very fast growth itself. It's already the world's biggest. And it's got a very compelling mission. Naked was founded on a suspicion, which I've always held, and some of you may have always held, which is that the wine industry is bullshit. What do I mean by bullshit? Well, there's actually loads of ways I could explain that statement, but I'll state maybe the simplest, which is explaining how the wine that's probably on your wine rack at home got there, right? So think about wine like a restaurant meal. It needs a chef to make it. It needs a head chef to be in charge of that process. Wine's exactly the same, and the best restaurants are the ones where the head chef is also the owner of the restaurant, right? Same's true of wine, but they don't really exist anymore because the industry's margin expectations are so tight, it basically squeezed out any independent vineyards left. So that's the first problem. There's loads of problems with a master winemaker not working for themselves, but the simplest is that their boss takes a cut of the profits. And then their boss gets out of the country by selling it to an exporter who takes a cut of the profits. And the exporter sells it to a distributor in the new country who sells it to a wholesaler who sells it to the retailer who knows they're going to sell 80% of their volume on deals. They have to pump the price right up so they can afford to discount it to sell it to you guys. And at the end of all that, if you bought a £10 bottle of wine in the UK, something like 50p has gone to winemaking. And I'm being pretty generous when I say winemaking. That's everything from the cost of the land, whether you're renting it or whether you own it, the machinery, the staff, everyone that works on site, anything that could possibly make the wine better. 50p. Good shake of the head. Thank you, I enjoyed that. I agree. Naked's a little different. We back the winemakers up front. So we go to the master winemaker, we say, hey, how much money do you need to start your own business, work for yourself? We invest in them. When we buy wine, it's always from a winemaker, never from a company. And as a result, we cut out all those middlemen, and when you buy a £10 bottle of wine from Naked, about £2.50 has gone to winemaking. So think of it like 2 burger restaurants next door to each other. One sells £10 burgers where 50p goes to the kitchen. One sells £10 burgers where £2.50 goes to the kitchen. One's going to be a better burger than the other. So that's us. And obviously, the core of that model is growth, right? The more customers we acquire, the more winemakers we can back, which means the more we can transform the whole industry to working how we work, because it's better for the environment, it's better for communities, it's better for wine drinkers, it's better for winemakers. We think everyone should work like us. So it's important that we keep growing. That's why we invest 25 million every year in growth. There goes all my credibility. Sorry. Those of you on Instagram, I recognize the meme. I really like it. It's my way of explaining the value equation that existed in growth marketing in the years running up to COVID, and especially during COVID. I love that people taking photos of the meme. So there was a while where customers were cheap to acquire. And they were cheap to acquire primarily because they had a good amount of disposable income, which meant they had high intent to shop. And they want to shop online. And the fact that more people were online created this explosion of new touch points, exciting ways to market to customers very effectively, and not everyone realized at the same speed how effective they all were. So we had this little sweet spot where there were all these inefficiencies, and most people didn't realize how efficient things like parcel inserts or closed user group affiliates were. And you could exploit those if you knew what you were doing. So loads of us were recruiting loads of customers really, really cheap. And then when you got them, they were high LTV, because your product would cost was cheap to produce, cheap to fulfill. Which meant that for a little while, if you had a decent value proposition, i.e. customers like what you sell, you could put £1 into growth marketing at £2 back. So up to whatever your business's point of diminishing returns was, we had an infinite money machine. Sort of. But basically, and we all took it for granted, right? That's obviously no longer the case. What's changed? Well, cost of living crisis, that took out that one. The market took out that one. I think we've all caught up to all the inefficiencies. If you find a new one, awesome. It won't be cheap in 6 months. And I don't know about you guys, but everyone I speak to has never paid more to produce, warehouse, deliver, service their customers, products, and customers. Yeah? Anyone, like, can I get a murmur of agreement or heads nodding or anything? Same? Cool, reassuring. Thank God, otherwise I have to throw away the whole presentation. I'm not going to talk about the right-hand side, because that's a whole different conference. I'm going to talk about the left-hand side and what we've done to reduce CACs. And forgive me, but we're sticking with childish diagrams. This is a simple seesaw of growth channels. Sorry, the left is cheap, the right is expensive. And if you're going to have low CACs, you want this to be at least flat or ideally pointing this way. And before and during COVID, for most of us, it was flat or pointing that way. And after COVID, that changed. Owned channels got smaller as customer intent went down. They were less likely to refer a friend, less likely to return if they'd left, and less likely to be organically Googling products like yours, right? Offline partner got less effective for the same reasons. And as offline partner gets less effective, it gets more expensive because fixed costs, variable performance. Online partner is growing. It's the sweet spot for a lot of us. Sorry, the bright spot for a lot of us. But it's expensive, and it kind of always will be. So you can't build a mix out of online partner unless you've got counterweights the other side. And digital, by which I mean like Meta and Alphabet and TikTok and all that stuff, remained effective and reliable and expensive. And if you've got something that's effective, reliable, and expensive, but your LTVs are going down, you can afford to spend less and less there. Again, like, was this everyone else too? Few, okay. So, good news for those of you who just nodded. I have a solution. So this is how we've rebalanced our mix. Squiggle AI, are a new tech company. I'm glad people are taking photos of this one. This is probably the most important page to take photos of. Squiggle AI are a tech company who use first-party deep learned metadata to target, retarget, and re-retarget high LTV cohorts. They work on a CPA, CPC, and CPB basis. They're scalable, they're cheap, they're low resource. They're paying me huge amounts of money to say this. And they've completely balanced my mix. And that's the end of the presentation. Any questions? No, obviously I made Squiggle AI up. And it was really easy, because that's what every tech company here sounds like. If Squiggle AI existed, which they don't, if they did, they might be scalable, they might be low resource, they might be effective. That means they wouldn't be cheap. That's not how this game works. There is no silver bullet for CAC. No partner or channel is going to unlock it for you. So what have we done? In a world where Squiggle AI is just a dream, I think there are 3 ways to rebalance this seesaw. I messed up my animations. Number 1, and the one that people spend the most time on, is reallocating their spend. So moving money from your most expensive channels to your less expensive channels, bit by bit, incrementally, right? Kill the bad spend, find good spend, etc. Find really good spend, work out how to pay for it with bad spend. Number 2 is you drive your own channels, by which I'm talking about referrals, win-backs, people that just stumble across you and you don't have to pay for. and then generate tailwinds that can push everything to the left and flip the whole seesaw on its head. We're going to talk about all three of them. Reallocating spend. It's the one that most people spend the most time thinking about, talking about, doing. Takes up the most headspace. I'm not a huge fan. Like, obviously, if you've got terrible spend, kill it, right? That's a no-brainer. But it's not, in my opinion, going to massively move the needle for you. There's a bunch of reasons for that. The two main ones are your most expensive channels are probably also your most flexible. And for example, Meta is my most expensive channel. But I can test something faster on Meta and find out whether or not it resonates with customers than I can anyone else. And that is so valuable to me. And it only works if I'm spending enough with them to keep my funnel topped up that I have to spend through that pain barrier whether I like it or not. And Meta aren't paying me to say this. I fucking wish they were. The other main reason why I don't put that much stock in reallocating spend is that I don't care what attribution methodology you're using. I don't care if you're using media mix modeling, geo holdouts, deprivation testing, something simple like how did you hear about us, or last touch, or pixels, whatever. Even if you're using all 12 of them and an AI model's triangulating for you, it's still not perfect. And so when we say a channel is expensive, what we mean is we think it's expensive. And for as long as that's the case, if I've got a channel which does good common sense marketing and tells a story effectively, and I can't guarantee it's expensive, I'm going to be pretty low to just kill it and replace it with a channel which I think is cheaper, but I'm not sure about. So that's why I'm not a hugest fan of reallocating spend. Owned, on the other hand, makes loads of sense, right? We should all be doing this. Why wouldn't you? It's quick, you get short-term results, it's completely in your control, it's cheap. But I don't think there's anything I can say which you won't already know. Like, I can stand here and say like, oh, personalize your lapsed customers, segment your lapsed customers so you can personalize how you re-win them back. Or gamify your referrals, or optimize your landing pages, or if you get desperate, just bribe your customers harder to refer their friends or to come back if they left. But you all, I'm guessing, already know all those things, right? I don't think like anyone has like a magical unlock and own that will take you from here to here. You'll get marginal gains, but unless you're starting from a very low base, it's not going to flip your seesaw on its head, and that's what we need. That's how we get back to sustainable growth. The thing which will add more to your owned channels than any of the tactical stuff is exactly the same stuff that will generate tailwinds, which will move everything to the left. So that's what I'm going to talk about, even though it's not what anyone at a conference like this likes to hear, because it's not neat, actionable bullet points you can take home and start tomorrow. It's long, painful stuff that has an indeterminate amount of time before we see a payback on it. And you'll wish you did it a long time ago, but it doesn't feel like the big priority now, but best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. Second best time's today. So we have generated tailwinds at Naked. Spoiler. I'm talking from a position of we've done this, it worked. We focused on three things, and I would call all of them basics. So what we did was we found out who our very best possible customers were, what they looked like, everything about them, right? Then we became crystal clear on our CVP, and we made sure that everyone in the business understood it intricately, lived and breathed it into every touch point we put out into the world. And finally, we had to think carefully about how we would recruit customers by making a promise that we could keep, because for a long time, I'll be honest with you, when a customer joins you, they're joining because you've told them a promise and they like it. And for a long time, we told a promise which customers really liked. We got huge amounts through the door. We weren't very good at keeping that promise. And so those customers came, half of them left in 3 months because they realized we couldn't deliver on the promise that we'd made to them when they joined. The challenge we faced over the last 18 months is how do we tell a promise to customers that we can keep and customers still like? So, gone to 2 there, haven't I? Yeah. This is Gareth. I won't tell everyone about Gareth because you don't care about Gareth. I care about Gareth. Gareth's my best fit customer. This is the level of detail we had to go to by market. So this is just the UK. in order to effectively market to the right customers in the right places with the right media, the right products, the right offers, etc. The one thing I will tell you about Gareth, because I really like this, and you might too, Gareth just does stuff. Does so much stuff. Like, Gareth goes to the theatre more than the average person. He also goes to the cinema more than the average person. And he goes to art galleries more than the average person. And he goes to live concert more than the average person. And he goes to live sports more than the average person. And by that, I mean he goes to Premier League football matches more. He goes to Conference League football matches more. He goes to rugby matches more. He goes to women's hockey matches more. He goes to new restaurants more. He goes to old restaurants more. And when he eats in, he's more likely to get a takeaway. Gareth's just doing so much stuff. Partly because he can afford to, partly because he wants to. Imagine how useful that is for me as the person in charge of recruiting more Gareths to know all of that. To know that's what my best customer likes doing. That's how they like spending their money. And it informs lots of other stuff, which we'll come on to. Second thing we had to do is we had to become crystal clear on what makes us special. Why should a customer be our customer and not someone else's? Well, this is our customer value proposition. Don't steal it. You can't. Because you'd have to remodel your whole business. I like that joke. Anyway. It's an internal line, so don't hold it against the copywriters. But basically, there's three pillars to our CVP. So for us, it's great wine. Well, we already knew we made great wine. We only work with world-class winemakers. Of course we make great wine. How does the customer know that? Well, we have about 5 million ratings and reviews on our site that customers have given us over the years of our wines. So surfacing those. And for me, if I go to a website and I see 1,000 odd people have reviewed this wine, and they've written all this nice stuff about it, and 96% of them have said they'll buy it again, I care a lot more about that than I do some bullshit wine award that probably the company that won the award probably paid for in the first place anyway. Fair prices, not cheap, not even good value. We talked about value for years. Customers didn't care. Value sounds good on paper, it's very rational. It's not an emotional driver, is it? No one really makes decisions about value. In our category, what does good value look like? In my category, wine, means not getting ripped off. So I don't know about you guys, but I think I've been ripped off when I bought wine a hell of a lot in my life. And I think all of us have that suspicion an awful lot. It's a category that intentionally obfuscates. So for us, that promise is you never have to worry about price with Naked Wines. You will never be ripped off again if you buy a wine from Naked Wines. We know exactly how much every bottle of wine costs. We had a fixed price margin to it. You never have to worry. And then that leads into the third and most important pillar. Think about what I just said about Gareths, right? Gareths, they're confident, they're successful, they're intelligent people. They feel intelligent. They feel decisive when they book a holiday, when they buy a car, when they buy a new iPhone or decide to come to a conference, whatever. And they feel stupid when they buy wine. I think a lot of people, a lot of intelligent people feel stupid when they buy wine. It's kind of what the category does. So, and actually I'll give you a data point for that. The average wine purchase in the UK takes 8 minutes of deliberation. 8 minutes. That's the average. It includes everybody who's buying the same bottle they buy every week. So it's just walking past the fixture, grabbing it and moving, right? So think about that bell curve. Think about how many people stare at a fixture for 16, 20, 25 minutes, trying to make odds and ends of it. Look at that. I've been there. You look at it and you're like, well, that one's got a chateau on it. Does that mean it's good? Actually, does that mean it's bad? That one looks nothing like other wine. Does that mean it's good? Does that mean it's an intentionally confusing category, right? So, Gareth hate feeling stupid. How can we solve that problem for them? Two things. Number one, we built the world's smartest ever wine recommendations engine. You know, think Spotify or YouTube algorithms, but for wine. Second, and actually the much more important one, is we really surfaced our refund guarantee. We brought it to the front of our marketing. We've always done it, actually, but no one really knew about it, or they thought it was difficult. They thought they'd have to call up customer service. You don't. If you buy a bottle of wine from Naked Wines and you don't like it, just tell us on the app or on the desktop you didn't like it, and the money goes straight back into your account. And now we email people after their first or second cases and we say, hey, you've just had 12 bottles of wine from us. A few weeks have gone by. You must have drunk some of them. You haven't told us yet that you don't like a single one of them. There's no way you liked all those wines. Tell us which ones you didn't like. We'll give them money back. The reason we do that is to unstick the paralysis of those 8 minutes, to be able to walk up to the customer who's staring at the fixture and go, doesn't fucking matter. Pick a Slovenian Shiraz. If you don't like it, give you the money back. You try a French Pinot Noir next. So that's us. That's our CVP. Finally, we had to work out how to make a promise we could keep, still perform at the same rate. So many of you will have seen these. We put hundreds and hundreds of millions of them out into the UK, so you've probably seen them. 15 years ago, this was inspired acquisition marketing. It's really cheap to produce, but it looks premium. It's effective. It's immensely distributable, cheaply. But what does it tell you about Naked Wines? 2 things. It says we sell wine, and here's a big discount. Like I say, our model isn't big discounts. It's everyday fair prices. So customers would come to us going, oh, I like wine, I like big discounts. Get through the door, realize they're never getting a big discount from us again. They're getting fair prices from now on. Leave. We had to figure out how to do something that would be as effective, but through a promise that would work for us. One of the ways we've done that is by building small little universes where we can be a full funnel brand. So take Saracens as an example. We knew that Gareth liked rugby. We knew Saracens was their favorite club. We created a ton of content with rugby players, which is very relatable content for Gareth's. Successful, confident people talking about how stupid wine makes them feel. And then we flooded that fan base with co-branded vouchers, which still talk about price, but they also deliver the promise of what we can do. They land our CVP. Redemption rates are higher. LTVs of these customers are significantly higher. Retention is higher. They're infinitely more likely to refer a friend, and if they do leave, they're infinitely more likely to come back. We had a hunch, more than a hunch, good marketing theory. If we recruited the right customers for the right reasons, through a promise that we could actually deliver, and then consistently delivered on that promise, that we would get more high LTV customers who would refer more friends and rebalance our seesaw. And the good news is we have. So year just ended, we recruited 30% more people than the previous year. As I say, we spend the same amount every year. So 30% more signups for that money, and they're all higher LTV. And we're getting back to the infinite money machine, right? Think about that meme at the beginning. Low CACs, high LTVs. Our LTVs are rising, our CACs are lowering. We're starting to get to the point where you put £1 in and £2 coming back out again. And that really is everything. Oh no, one thing, since I've got 3 minutes left, I think. The benefit of recruiting all those new customers is we get to bring on new winemakers. So I thought I'd just take a second. Christian Vallejo, he's my new favorite. We just brought him on. He's from Chile, but he spent most of his life working at Chateau Margaux, which is LeBron James's favorite winery. So if you've got 10 to 15 grand to spend on a bottle of wine, go buy a bottle of Chateau Margaux. If you don't, go buy a bottle of Christian Vallejo's wine from Naked Wines. It costs about 16 quid. It's just one Chilean winemaker of the year. So that's the benefit of what we do. But that really is the end. Unless you invent a Squiggle AI, in which case I'd really appreciate it if you talk to me first. But I will know if you haven't, because I made up all the nonsense anyway. That is it. Any questions? There's never any questions. People hate asking questions. There's someone, I think, is that a question over there?
Great presentation. With the Saracens hookup, so did you go directly to Saracens to do that? Did you do other clubs? Did you do any digital ads to like retarget Saracens fans? I hate Saracens, by the way.
Same. Yeah, I'm a Bristol Bears fan. It's why it was so cool.
I'm a Gloucester fan. I hate Bears too.
It came through the customer research. We knew it was the most appropriate club for Gareth's. We let that rule everything from now on. So even though it galled me to give money to Saracens, I had to. Any others? No. Oh, one over here. I can just hear you if you want to say it.
You know when you built your... Hi. Oh, there you go. When you built your kind of ideal customer persona, was that based on who historically has been your most successful customer when times were better, or who you'd ideally like them to be in this new economic climate?
Very good question. It was a combination of both. So we triangulated between our best ever customers, but also research around, well, who in the UK regularly buys wine that costs more than £10 a bottle online and gets it delivered to their home. Start from that basis, i.e. who has the propensity to be a high LTV customer for us. Did a ton of interviews, qualitative research, some quantitative research, produced a doc with about 13,000 lines of data, and then used that to build the profile. Any more?
Hello. Yeah. Just kind of on the back of that, when you're looking at your kind of best customer, what kind of percentage segment are you looking at? Because, for example, say our best customers, they might not actually exist as a huge group of people. It might be a very niche. So, what kind of breadth are you looking at for your best customers?
Another actually great question. So, we also would be a much smaller business if we only recruited Gareths. But my thinking on this is, some companies would build the best and then they'd build outer circles, right? I almost think there's no point in building those outer circles. I think about a dartboard. Gareth's in the middle. If I'm throwing at Gareth, but I'm coming a bit to the right, and I'm getting someone who exhibits 3/4 of Gareth's behaviors, but doesn't like live theater, they're still going to be quite close to that core demo. So essentially we use it as it's not like we treat Gareth as our TAM, if that's what you're talking about. We just treat them as the center of the bullseye. We aim for that. We trust that good stuff will follow. Oh, sorry, no time apparently. I'm getting there. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the day.